everybody. Welcome to SubCulture. I'm Samantha Feenburg. Today I am here with Kent Bierly. He's the president of the ANBF. He's also a gym owner, and he's extremely involved in the sport of natural bodybuilding. Today we're just going to pick his brain and hit on a couple of topics. How are you doing today, Kent?
I'm doing very good, and then I'm excited to be involved in this interview. I love talking about my passion and my love of the sport of natural bodybuilding. I'm just ready to go.
So recently, with 2020 being such a crazy year and a lot of shows were canceled, recently you were up head judging the Mr. America competition up in Atlantic City, New Jersey.
Yeah, that was I was honored to be the head judge. I wasn't the first choice, I might add, but I was very excited to fill in. Love head judging natural bodybuilding. I can do the guys, do the it was a great show. We had great pro classes, great amateur classes. Mark Torriello put on it was nice to see the iconic Mr. America show. Now, me being old, that's what it was all when I was a kid, was the Mr. America. And, and for him to bring that back after a few years, it really meant a lot to me. And I really found a new thing. I think it was a great thing. And being involved with all those people that were there from all different organizations was really a tremendous, it was a great thing. Everybody appreciated it.
Right, and I think that's one of the things that sets it apart from some of the other natural bodybuilding shows is that all organizations are welcomed. It was a non-sanctioned show.
Right. Well, exactly. And anybody that knows me and follows the ANBF will work with anybody. The ANBF will try to make cooperation arrangements with other people. We accept all of the organization's pros. So when he gave me the opportunity to head judge and when it was unsanctioned, it just was a no-brainer to me. And it was really nice to see some of the other people from other organizations. And unfortunately, some of the same people were not represented. But that's just part of the game, I guess. And that's just what we need to do and just go forward and just get the people that want to be involved with each other together, and then the other ones can fend for themselves.
So let's talk about the men's pro bodybuilding division, which is kind of like the highlight of the Mr. America competition. We had Jason Brew. He was the number one. He's now the new Mr. America. Congratulations to him.
Absolutely. He was shredded. He was thick. His backside was better than the front side, which really made him stand out amongst the competitors. And his arms were great. Legs from the front were great. He brought a total great package to the stage. And I was very impressed, and I'm not easily impressed. But he impressed me.
But I mean, it was a battle between first, second, and third for sure. I had the privilege to be there as well, and I was impressed, especially with everything that's been going on in 2020. For these athletes to bring that level of conditioning and just overall, it was amazing.
Absolutely. When Siobhan, anybody that knows Siobhan Cunningham, when he comes out on stage, he's got the best front relaxed pose in the business. So you can't help but look at him. Well, it definitely was. I mean, your eyes go. There's 8 guys. Your eyes go from back and forth, and you're trying to pick guys out, and it just was amazing how that's just where you start with Siobhan. It almost seems like, and then you look at everybody else, and then you compare him to the standard, and then for Jason to really end up beating him was really amazing. And then Joe Farisi, he came in a little not as tight back then, but he definitely pushed those guys with conditioning for third place. Frank beat him the week before, so definitely Joe came in and brought a great package, and Frank looked great as usual. So, and then the top 5, they were just completely great conditioning. And I worked them, and my goal as a head judge, especially with the pros, I'll work them and work them and work them. And if I see somebody else gaining ground, I'll leave them out there. And it's not replacing when they come out, it's replacing when they're done. So as a judge, you have to kind of get a feel of what your head judge is doing. I'm not going to have them out there for 5 minutes and say, okay, here, it's not a rush to pick the winner. You go to the end, just like it's like a 15-round boxing match. It's who wins at the end. It's not who wins the first round. So for you judges out there, it's a little lesson. A little side.
Yeah, you definitely worked him on that stage.
So that's how I handle the lineup for sure. Even the bikini girl.
Yeah. So I did send out to see if anybody had any questions that they wanted to ask. I got a bunch of responses, but I was just going to pick a couple for today's topics. But one of the athletes asked me, she's a newer competitor, and she wanted to know, are the judges turned off when an athlete competes in multiple shows back to back? And I think that's a good question because I know I have my thoughts on that, but I want to know what yours are.
The way I look at that, if I see a competitor one week and then I see him again and then I see him again, if they look better every show, then I'm excited for them. I'm like, wow, they get it. They're really working hard and they're going through it. They're taking their feedback from the judge and they're really putting their time in it, improving their physique. And it looks like they're not damaging themselves. And as long as they're handling themselves and not injuring themselves physically, mentally, emotionally, so then that's good. But if you see the same competitor over and over again and they stay the same, or even with the feedback you give them, or if they start to get worse, then you start to be concerned. Maybe they're not really being guided in the right direction. Maybe their coach is not doing the right thing, or maybe they don't have a coach. But no, I like to see people. 99% of the time, I enjoy seeing people who share the passion of the sport like I have. I mean, I've done most I've done is back to back to back. I've done 3 shows in a row, and that has its own challenges. But still, I like to compete. I mean, I haven't competed in 4 or 5 years now, but when I do compete, I do try to stack some shows up. If you're in shape, you might as well get up there and show it because you won't be in shape for long.
That's right. I agree with you 100% on that. So another question, and this question gets asked all the time, and um, this athlete wants your opinion specifically. As far as the divisions go, what are judges or what are you actually looking for?
When you look at the criteria, I mean, I've judged a lot of different organizations. When you look at the criteria, bottom line is it's really they're all the same. You could take all the criteria and put them all in the same thing, and you could spit them out, and it would be the same for everybody. It's how it's interpreted by the judge. So let's talk about say bikini. Okay, you have a bikini competitor who's relatively lean when she competes. Of course, how is she going to judge? She's gonna lean towards the leaner top. That's the way she is. Or say you have a bodybuilder who's big and massive, but has never been known to be a lean kind of guy. So where is he going to go? He's going to go to the right of the. So you either go to the left or you go to the right, just like the world of politics. You go left, you go right. Nobody's ever in the middle because hardly anybody is ever perfect. So a judge has got to has to have the eye and try not to judge based on what their physique is like. And that's very common. And sometimes you can pick out by looking at the judging panel how they're before. I mean, I've done a million shows. I can look at a judging panel and have an idea of which way they're going to go, what kind of physique they like. So generally, the rule of thumb is it all starts with muscle. It all starts with shape. That's the first thing a judge looks at. Just like I talked about Shaban when he comes out. Nobody has a footprint like Shaban Cunningham when he comes out and does his front relaxed pose. Like if that was it, the contest is over. He wins. But unfortunately, you have to do everything. You have to turn around to the back. You have to do all different poses. So that's where other people come up and defeat somebody like that. So the judges got to look at the muscle, look at the shape, and then they start looking at the conditioning to see where does it lie within the guidelines. Now, because somebody is not as lean as the ideal doesn't mean that they're not as good as somebody that's too lean to the ideal. So that's where people come into play, and that's where a lot of subjectiveness kind of goes out the window, and then they judge based on their physique because they think it's an ego-driven sport. Everybody wants to be the best. So if you're a judge, that's one way, then you might lean towards that way. So it's very tricky, and there's some classes that are not as tricky as others. But when you start dealing with the figure and bikini and men's physique, because now you see men's physique guys that are just as shredded as bodybuilders. And a guy like state not to. So, and then you have guys that are winning physique, winning classic physique, winning bodybuilding. Now, I have nothing against that. If they're the best to that criteria on stage, it doesn't mean you can't win all 3. And you hear that all the time. Oh, it's ridiculous. There was only 3 person in one class, 2 in another, and 5 in another. So why can't they be the winner of 3? So the judges really just got to know the guidelines and judge what's on stage in front of them based on the guidelines, and not worry about if they were out here in another class or not.
Gotcha. Yeah. No. And if you're like a new competitor and you're getting into the sport, um, and you want to know what the baseline is that the judges are looking for, I always tell people look at the pros and see see who's winning shows and see what physique is being rewarded, just as a guideline, just to give you an idea of what's winning. That's the physique.
Right.
If that's the physique that continues to win, then they must be doing something right.
The competitor has to remember, though, when they're seeing a lineup of pros, those are the elite people that win their pro.
Yes.
A person that just very rarely is there a person that comes out of the amateur ranks that goes into the pro ranks and cleans up. It's just like you take a college football player who's all American and then he ends up can't even start in the NFL because the level of competition is that much better. But they're all trained the same way. They all have the same guidelines of what they're doing. They all have the same playbook, but some guys are better than others. And that's just maturing pro. Now you're in this elite lineup. How are you going to stand out? How are you going to make yourself have that footprint, that Siobhan Cunningham footprint? That's the challenge. Whatever class you're in, you have to be able to go out there and show what's up. Like when I competed, my legs and my arms was what got my attention. That's what got people's attention towards me. So that is what they looked at me. Now, if I wasn't in condition, then I would take steps down, and that's what happens. But everybody's got to have that thing that makes them stand out, whether it's a pose, whether it's their conditioning, whether it's their density. You have to figure that out. You just can't think, oh, I look good. I'm going to go. I just won my open class with 6 people. I'm going to go into the Yorton Cup, or I'm going to go into Mr. America, or I'm going to do the NGA Universe, and I'm going to clean up, because chances are you're going to walk home disappointed.
For sure, for sure. Now, another question. Well, it's not really a question. I kind of want you to explain the responsibility of being a natural drug-free athlete. Have you ever had an athlete piss dirty at a test and then point the finger at somebody else, or point the finger at a supplement store or a coach or somebody, and it's not their fault? Because in my opinion, if you're a natural drug-free athlete, it's 100% your fault. That's your responsibility.
Right.
What's your take on that?
If you're a natural athlete and you sign that entry form and you get caught with something you're not supposed to be, yeah, it absolutely is your fault. You need to know what's in your body. If you have a trainer, and I'm saying this doesn't happen because it happens more times than people think. A trainer gives you a bottle and says, here, take this. It's a fat burner. And you take it unknowingly. Now, I think we're probably going to touch into this topic, but let's remember, you don't know that you're taking something illegal. So therefore, you will pass the polygraph test when you're asked that question, are you taking anything illegal? Because you don't know what's in it. So that might be a trick of a coach too. They'll give you something. Here, it's a fat burner. Well, what is it? Oh, don't worry about it. It's good. I give it to all my clients. So a coach like that, if he does it to one person, he'll do it to another. We actually have in the ANBF, we follow, and I know some other organizations follow the WADA guidelines for suspensions as well. There is a provision there where you could suspend a coach if he is implicated in quite a few. If you hear a lot of stories like that, well, give it to me, 4 or 5 people. So there's got to be something to it. But not only is the level of suspension for the competitor can be reduced, but the coach could be suspended as well. It might be worth a $5,000, or a $10,000 prize at a show like last weekend. Maybe you might try to get by.
This has been hit over and over, but you mentioned the polygraph, and an athlete can actually pass the polygraph and then fail a urine test. So why do we keep this abbreviated bodybuilding polygraph in natural bodybuilding versus all the organizations, which many of them have, just going to a straight urine test? Do you think that will eventually happen, where the polygraph will just go away?
Well, as I've said a million times, it's like I watch Discovery, Investigation Discovery Channel, right? And people always get caught when they follow the money, and you will find the guilty person. As long as people are making money, as long as organizations are making money, as long as people that are involved in an organization are making money from it, it will not go away in that organization unless their competitors wake up and say, hey, I don't get it. Why are these people passing the polygraph test but failing the urine test year after year after year? The ANBF doesn't have a polygraph test. The PNBA doesn't have a polygraph test. IFBB Physique doesn't have a polygraph test. I'm sure there's other organizations out there that don't have polygraph tests. The problem too is it's more expensive to do urine. The urine tests are paid for by the organization. I mean, some of them might be supplemented through competitors, like certain organizations. But what we've done in the ANBF, we've slightly increased the entry fees. We've slightly increased our membership fees. We've worked around
Which
the
is
budget
fair.
a little bit. So we have, but we're still, if you look at our entry fees, we're still about average or lower compared to other organizations. So all the urine tests are paid by the ANBF by reworking our whole budget system. We do not charge a drug fee per athlete. Now we also went out and we have the same. We went after last year's whole scandal thing. We went out and got rid of our urine test because we found that our urine test was no different than everybody else's. That everybody else wasn't covering things on the urine test. Some organizations are doing urine tests. People are passing, but yet they go to another organization and they fail because we find out that one test was by far 100% better than the one that we were using. And there's many organizations out there. They don't test for SARMs. They don't test for certain other substances that other organizations do. SARMs is the big deal. There's other things out there that's not tested for either that I found out. And so we went out and we purchased more expensive testing, but it's worth it. Everybody's talking about be a lion, not a sheep. Well, that's the perfect example right there.
As an athlete, I don't want to have my moment taken away from me by a cheater who passed a polygraph and then after the show was tested and failed a urine test. I can't think of anything worse than that.
Did a couple of our shows a few years ago, and when you tell the person that they failed, it's like they don't even like care because they're caught. They're like, oh, okay, whatever, and then they just go on. So it is a bad thing for a natural person, for a person that's on drugs to sit there and pass a polygraph test. It just makes no sense.
I think as an athlete, when you're competing, those are all things you want to think about. Now, another topic is just 2020 altogether. We've seen some incredible athletes on stage that have actually persevered through this nightmare. But I think going into 2021, we're going to see some athletes who took a much needed break, whether it was voluntary or not. I think we're going to see an increase in athletes hitting the stage, and I think we're going to see an increase in the competition. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I would say that there's a lot of people out there that are hungry to get on stage. I mean, I know one for myself. When I was in here by myself working out, when was it? I was like, me and my son were in here killing it, but yet you still lose that. You lose that sense of motivation too at the same time. So I know a lot of people that really haven't worked out at all during this whole thing. So they took that upon. They just kind of like took a rest period. But I do think there's going to be a lot of people that come out next year and they're going to be ready to go. They're going to be fired up. And that's one of the reasons why I'm really going out and trying to find, for the ANBF, trying to find locations that I know the shows will go on. If I put a show on the schedule, I want the competitor to know that it's going to happen one way or the other. And that's why we made a decision really to cancel the rest of our year shows, because I didn't want to have to put a show and have somebody getting ready for a show and then pull it out from underneath them. And which I had to do actually the first weekend that the whole world blew up. I think next year is going to be a great year for natural bodybuilding across the board. I mean, every organization is going to do great if they manage it properly and they're smart about how they do their schedule.
I think you did a wonderful job staying transparent.
I appreciate that. Again, I go back to the point where I'm still a competitor, and I try to think and feel like I'm a competitor, and I want to be outgoing and forth. I want to be transparent because I know what it's like. But even I felt like I could have done more. I mean, I did that open online thing, and it was a great success, even though a lot of people thought that something. But a lot of people, they all loved it. I got great emails from it, and so I thought it was a good thing. I was going to do another one in the fall, but there are people that are having shows, so I don't want to get in the way of other people's shows. But again, this is a hobby to me. I do it because I love to compete. I love the sport of natural bodybuilding. I want to be able to give people what I've experienced my whole life. That's 40 years. I've done more shows probably than anybody that's listening. I've won more titles than most people, if not everybody. According to Mark Lobliner, I'm the winningest natural pro, but I haven't competed in a while, so maybe somebody caught me. I have not won the biggest titles, But I feel like I want to share what I've done. It's been a big part of my life. It's my gym is all based on who I am. And so I feel like in me, it's my responsibility to represent natural bodybuilding as an athlete first, then as a promoter and organizational head of the ANBF. But I try to do what's right. So if my shows don't make money because it doesn't have a lot of people, that's fine. If my shows people walk away with a great time and they enjoy themselves, that's what makes me happy. Let's hopefully we don't have to deal with this again. I do feel bad for
Hopefully, yes.
everybody in general, but there won't be
Overall, I'm really proud. I'm really proud of all the athletes and how they overcame everything that was thrown at them. And for all the athletes that did step on stage this year, kudos to you because I know I couldn't have.
I've seen a lot of like for example, the NPC Masters Nationals is this week down by you down in Orlando. I was supposed to be there in July, so I was just so jealous when I saw that. I'm like, my buddy Johnny Hurley was in it. I know a bunch of other people that were in it, and that was the show I was supposed to do in July, and just now it's supposed to be in Pittsburgh. Now it's in Orlando. I'm jealous, but there's always
next year. Well, I thank you so much for your time today. You definitely got a lot of information out there and answered some questions. And I'm looking forward to 2021. I think that it's going to be an amazing year. Yeah, and if anybody else has any questions for Ken, you guys can leave them in the comments below. He's usually really great about getting back to them. And hopefully I'll have you on here again.
I'd love to be back.
All right, have a great day. And thank you again for your time.